Linda Sanchez was on this program last night, and she is spearheading the subcommittee that is investigating this, and she talked about this issue of the claim of executive privilege.
Because executive privilege covers communications with the president when you're advising, and if Karl Rove, in fact, didn't have any of those conversations with the president about Don Siegelman or any of these other cases, then there could be no really worthwhile assertion of executive privilege.
Let me go to Governor Siegelman. Governor, what do you make of today's development?
Yes. Well, what I make of it is that it's an historic step forward in seeking the truth. But in listening to you and the discussion, I was thinking, why not bring before the committee those people who cannot claim executive privilege, like Karl Rove's business partner in Alabama, Bill Canary, whose wife is the U.S. Attorney in Alabama who prosecuted me. And I can guarantee you this, if you put both of them under oath and bring them before the committee, one of them is going to throw the other under the bus because they're not both going to go to prison over this. So, you know, we've got the governor's son, Rob Riley, who was part of this conspiracy, according to Dana Jill Simpson. You know, subpoena Rob Riley and bring him before the committee, because these people are not going to stand the heat. They're going to either talk and tell the truth about Karl Rove, or Karl Rove will point the finger at them. But one way to investigate this is by going after those people and subpoenaing those people who cannot claim executive privilege.
All right. Now, I should say that we invited both Karl Rove and his attorney to come on the program tonight. They they rejected that invitation. Here's Congressman Wexler, also a leading member of the Judiciary Committee, on this program last week, talking to us about what happens if Karl Rove refuses to testify after he's subpoenaed.
If he refuses to honor the subpoena, then the full House of Representatives must hold Mr. Rove in contempt of Congress, and then we must ask the Attorney General to enforce the contempt of Congress.
So look, they sound like they are, you know, getting serious about this. But, all right, Michael Isikoff, let's talk more broadly about this. This goes beyond just Governor Siegelman. I mean, this is an ongoing issue that the Congress has had with Karl Rove in particular. And the suggestion is, the allegation is, that Rove was behind political prosecutions, right?
Correct, right.
And so, yeah, go ahead.
Well, look, first of all, I just want to say I thought that Governor Siegelman did make an important point here, which is the way you get information, the way you develop, do investigations, is to develop from the ground up, from the witnesses who are closest to the case. You don't go for the top target like Karl Rove from the get-go. That's not the way any experienced investigator gets. So, you know, it is perfectly right that to say that the real way, if the Judiciary Committee wanted to get to the bottom of this, would be to do a thorough investigation of all the principals. Now, it's also worth pointing out that the principal allegation against Karl Rove comes from the witness who said she was part of this conference call in which Bob Riley referenced Karl Rove. Riley, my understanding, has in an affidavit denied that. So it may not be that calling Riley is going to get the Democrats what they want either, but it's certainly much closer to the facts that are on the table than going straight to Rove.
Go ahead. You want to get into that?
Yeah, just adding that the larger point here is the politicization allegations that have been coming out for, you know, since the U.S. Attorney scandal began well over a year ago.
And Rove's attorneys are basically saying this is the same thing. We already told you before he's not going to testify. It's what the White House is saying. And here's how Congress distinguishes this one. All right, this is in the letter that they have just sent to Luskin where the subpoena is attached. Here, as we have made clear from the outset, the Siegelman case is a principal focus of our request for Mr. Rove to testify. In addition, unlike Harriet Miers, Mr. Rove has made a number of on-the-record comments to the media about the Siegelman case and the U.S. Attorney's firings, extending far beyond general denials of wrongdoing. Professor Goldman, why is that important legally?
Well, it's important legally, perhaps, because he's already waived it in a sense. I mean, how can he claim executive privilege about things he's already been, you know, blabbing about on the networks? But let me say one thing about those other potential witnesses. I agree. If they want to call other people who never worked for the executive branch, then then I don't think there's an executive privilege here, but there clearly wouldn't be there. On the other hand, if you wanted to hold them in contempt because they refused to come before Congress, you'd still have to go through the Justice Department if you follow the standard procedures. And if that takes place, then the question becomes, is the Justice Department going to be willing to pursue them for contempt if this is the subject matter? And that will be very interesting. It won't be Karl Rove, it'll be other witnesses.
Right, but I think the question here is the purpose of this political theater to get to jail, put somebody in inherent contempt and jailed, or is it to develop information about the core issues? And I think, you know, the goal shouldn't be to put somebody in jail. It should be to get to the facts as to whether or not there's anything to the allegations.
But Mike, isn't there something about the fact that Rove is putting up, I mean, putting aside, I have no idea what Karl Rove knows or doesn't know about this case. What I do know, though, is that it sounds bogus to say we're citing executive privilege and yet to also say we had no conversations with the White House about this.
Right. You make a good point, but also in quoting to the letter you actually that Conyers sent, you use the very language that I think Luskin, Bob Luskin, Rove's very able lawyer, is seizing on to keep him from testifying because it refers to the U.S. attorney firings.
Well, let's talk about it.
There is a claim of privilege on, and it's being litigated in the courts
well, let's talk
right
about
now.
That. We'll talk about that in a minute. We'll also, his able lawyer told us in no uncertain terms Rove would testify.